All right, so the big question that we asked this evening, election reform or assault on federalism? Well, the government clearly stating that this is going to be a transitional, a transformative shift, election reform. The opposition very clear that this is an assault on federalism. Does the government actually have the numbers, though, to push one nation, one poll? The Modi government on the front foot batting after the Maharashtra win. All of that being addressed over the course of the next 45 minutes. Joining me this evening, Mr. G. Kumar Nayak, MP, Lok Sabha Congress. I have with me Salem Dharindharan, spokesperson DMK, Jyotsna Tirunagri, national spokesperson TDP, Sanju Verma, national spokesperson BJP. I want to begin with the Congress spokesperson. Mr. Nayak, the fact is, today the bill was admitted in Lok Sabha with 269 MPs voting in favour, 198 voting against it. The question that is posed at the back of the Ramnath Kovind report as well, committee report, is very clear, Mr. Nayak, that why oppose something which could completely be a transformative shift in India? And let's hark back to the period of 1950 to 1967. We already did have simultaneous elections before the coalition era.
Yeah, we did. In fact, we started off with simultaneous election to both the center as well as the states. But the working of the constitution and the way the states have worked and the governments have fallen, so it has given rise to not simultaneous elections. That's the way the Indian democracy has been working. This is the fundamental structure of our parliamentary democracy. So this is not transformation at all that the BJP is trying to do.
But we're only, Mr. Nayak, one would suggest go back to what we were doing earlier, because before coalition politics, before the era of Indira Gandhi, and the BJP also says that it was Indira Gandhi who actually led to the fall of governments, therefore disrupting the cycle.
After 50 or 70 years, we are wiser the way the Indian parliament works and Indian parliamentary system works. And India is a union of states and the way the states vote. So all these things we are aware of now, and now we are very clear that this attempt to conduct one nation, one election kind of thing would be an assault on the federalism of this country. Each of the state is a representation or a manifestation of a linguistic aspiration or a cultural aspiration, as well as the ethnic aspirations. We need to allow that to flower and work out itself in every election. So it cannot be subsumed to issues which might come up in the one nation, one election at the national level. National issues are different, state issues are different. We need to have a fair playing field available for the state elections too. If they are happening at different times, what is the harm in this? What are we losing?
There's a lot of good which has also been suggested by the Ramnath, Mr. Kovind's committee report, and I'm going to come back to that. I just want to bring in Sanju Verma into this conversation. Sanju Verma, if you actually look at it, the premise that was made by the opposition and very vehemently has been that this will compromise the federal structure of the country, the democratic principle will be compromised, and the state autonomy.
Okay. Preeti, first things first. I think the opposition has been behaving like that typical khisyani billi khamba noche jo Hindi ki kahawat hai. When I look at the opposition party, I'm reminded of a khisyani billi. They will go against any sane proposal simply because it is being tabled by the Modi government, such as their visceral hatred for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But quickly, let's talk numbers and facts. First and foremost, today there were 467 members present and voting in the Lok Sabha, out of which 269 supported the one nation, one election proposal, which means 57.6% of the Lok Sabha members present and voting supported the one nation, one election proposal. Point number two, 32 out of 47 political parties have supported the one nation, one election proposal, which means 68% of the current political parties, they support the one nation, one election proposal. So first and foremost, let's be very clear that as far as numbers go, they clearly stand with the proposal, not against the proposal. Now, very quickly in 30 seconds, Preeti, for the first time in 1983, it was the Election Commission which actually endorsed the idea of one nation, one election. The BJP was not in power. In 1983, it was the Congress, it was Indira Gandhi who was the Prime Minister. Then the 170th report of the Law Commission in 1999 endorsed the idea of one election, one nation, one election. Then you had the 79th Parliamentary Committee, which into 2015 endorsed this idea. You had the Niti Aayog report, which in 2017 endorsed the one nation, one election idea. You had President Ramnath Kovind, the former president, who in 2018 endorsed this idea. But most importantly, as you rightly said at the very outset of your debate, in 1957, in 1962, and in 1967, we had 3 general elections which were actually synchronized with state assembly elections, and things went smoothly. If something could go smoothly in 1957, 1962, 1967, why is it that you have
Okay,
problem
but
going
Sanju
forward?
Verma, we are in the era of coalition politics, and you'd know it better how quickly governments fall, and things are very different politically what they were in 1967. But having said that, you gave out numbers, and you seem to suggest that it's going to be smooth sailing, but not quite. What I'm going to do is, before we actually get in on how the NDA needs 2/3 majority, does it need 2/3 majority? Because strangely, the Ramnath Kovind report seems to suggest that it only needs a majority, not 2/3 majority. That in itself is being contended with. Number 2, and the biggest of them all, which could be a massive roadblock, do states need to ratify one nation, one poll? And if they do need to ratify, then it's trouble going ahead. Strangely, the Ramnath Kovind committee report seems to suggest that they don't need to ratify. Let's listen in to both legal arguments, and we'll come right back.
Let me try and frame the debate in a way that common people can understand, because we had Ramnath Kovind ji, the president of this committee, with us at Agenda Aaj Tak over the weekend, and he said that there is no need for the government to seek the approval of state assemblies if we're talking only about Lok Sabha polls and state assemblies. In the way that opposition parties see it, they're saying that this requires a 2/3 majority, not a simple majority in the floor of the House, and it requires at least half the state assemblies to ratify it. The government's position and the committee's position is that just a simple majority is enough to be able to push this through. How do you explain that?
Simple majority is a misnomer. Any constitution amendment requires 2/3 members present and voting. So you need that majority. It's not the consequential amendments which will be required to be made to the Representation of People Act will require us. But there are changes proposed to the Constitution which I can see you're running on your screen. Those changes will require an amendment of the Constitution. The committee has taken the view, but this is not the last word of it. The committee has taken the view that this doesn't affect the states in a manner that it will require ratification of more than half the states. But if it does, it does. The point is, this thing has to be debated for its merits.
The other big argument is about whether this can be passed just as a constitutional amendment in Parliament, or does it need the ratification of more than half the state assemblies? Arjun Meghwal in Parliament argues that Schedule 7 of the Union List, Entry 72, empowers Parliament to legislate in elections to both the Parliament and state legislature without this requiring the ratification of the State Assembly, which is the argument Harish Salve made as well. The opposition seems to believe that it requires the approval of half the state assemblies, and that is really at the core of how this bill will get passed, if at all it does.
Well, I'm quite happy if the Honourable Law Minister and those who are advising him on law adopt the approach you are saying, because I think he'll be struck down in a jiffy. And I don't want to exaggerate. Just tell me in commonsensical terms, Rahul, are you changing the term of state assemblies, MLAs? Are you changing the character of state elections and further the part 19 panchayati and municipal elections? What is the answer, Rahul? Yes?
Sure, yeah.
Now you are changing the character at that level, and you are saying you don't need an amendment at the consent of states? I don't know who is the advisor and what law they are following. My first principle of law tell me that that is going to be the first challenge, and it's going to be allowed for the asking, subject to, of course, the court taking a decision. How can you even suggest that you are directly affecting states' autonomy, state elections, municipal elections, panchayati raj elections, or other forms of non-parliamentary elections, and not even seeking a state consent en masse for all the states?
All right, okay, so Sanju Verma, at the back of both those legal arguments, you might have admitted the bill in Lok Sabha with 56% MPs supporting it, but this bill is very difficult to clear because you will need, in all probability, even the likes of Mr. Salve have come out and suggested 2/3 majority. You don't have that.
Okay, Preeti, first and foremost, let's get this very clear that, as they say, cross the bridge when you come to it, one step at a time. I think the Modi government has showcased that when it comes to willpower, determination, and seeing things through and bringing them to fruition, Modi government ko koi surpass nahi kar sakta in my lifetime. And I never thought Article 370 would be abrogated, but look, they created history. But let's come straight to the point. Yes, normally, any constitutional amendment requires not just a simple majority, it requires a 2/3 majority of the members present and voting. But I'm just reading out ad verbatim. This is not Sanju Verma. I'm reading out from just in 20 seconds. Articles 83(2) and Article 172 of the Constitution stipulate that the tenure of Lok Sabha and state assemblies respectively will last for 5 years unless dissolved earlier. And there can be exceptional circumstances, as in Article 356, wherein assemblies can be dissolved earlier. So we have to first define what exceptional circumstances are. Do these exceptional circumstances require a
you're actually going
or a 2/3 majority?
Okay. Sanju Verma, this argument is actually, agar Modi hai to mumkin hai, because it looks implausible otherwise. And it also looks implausible because the states would, in all probability, need to ratify it. And it will go to court. Will it stand the scrutiny of court? Well, that's a legal argument. And that can be made separately.
Preeti, Modi hai to mumkin hai, baar Modi ji
that's all I'm saying, because right now that's the only way it's going to get cleared. And that's the only argument that, you seem to have right now on it. But Salem Dharan, you have opposed it vehemently. I want to know your reasons, because there are a lot of benefits, sir, which are attached to this bill, attached to one nation, one poll. It could very well be because even the committee of, the former president has come out with the fact that if we do have one nation, one poll, we can actually increase the GDP of the country by 1%. That's huge.
See, you can write some nonsense and ask me to believe it. The ex-president and the members in the committee did not even know that it required 2/3 majority. It requires at least 18 bills to be amended. 18 articles in the constitution to be amended. See, who says there are benefit? I don't think there are any benefit. I'm not speaking as a DMK spokesperson. I'm also a student of politics. I've studied politics in best of places. I've studied research papers on this matter, even from before, right? The same thing happened in Italy, 20 years back when state elections and national elections happened together. Professors in the University of Nottingham did a research on it, and they found out that when these elections happen together, the national issues take precedence. That's the salience of national issues, like such as defense and foreign, are more shown important and based on which people vote. And then issues of state issues, such as education, municipality, healthcare, take the back seat. This was proved in that research by seeing Italy as a case study. And because political parties are rational actors, they don't focus on these aspects. That's point number one. Point number two is that state legislatives and parliaments are independent bodies. They're not together. So how can you have elections for both together by order? For example, even in a homogeneous country such as Germany, for example, Berlin term and election term for a state government in Berlin is 5 years, Munich is 4 years. They don't even have the elections in 5 years for each state. Even in a homogeneous country where people speak the same language and only 8.2 crore people live. And you're talking about cost. How much elections cost in this country? 462 crores. Per year. That was money that was allocated to Election Commission by Government of India. And Prime Minister Modi spends 500 crores of government money for advertisement. So if he's thinking he's spending more money for elections, let him not advertise his face in the newspaper. That will save. And I'm asking you, is any political science expert?
Let's please go one by one. Sir, make your point.
Keep quiet, Sanjeev Verma.
Sir, make your point. Sir, please make your point.
I'm making only
1 second. Can I just, ma'am, you have your own time. Just make your point.
Was there any economist of world repute in that committee? Was there any political scientist of repute? Who wrote this? You can have some 12 people who do not understand anything about political science and economics and then come and say something and say...
All right, the fact is this is a committee. All right, sir, the fact is, and for our viewers, for the understanding of our viewers, the committee that has recommended one nation, one election, though they have said they have a huge sample size, 80% of the people that they consulted with have come back and supported the cause. I'll come back to you, sir. So now, but we want to put this out that this committee has no legal standing. It's a committee. It can give recommendations. Now, you said, that there is isn't any good that will come out of one nation, one election. But on the contrary, there can be a lot of good. It'll improve the efficiency in government. That is what is one of the key points that has been noted by the committee. Reduce time taken. We've already discussed cost, curb candidate, political party expense, better utilization of administration, security apparatus, reducing communal tensions, because you've seen, especially in the recent past, what goes down. Avoid prolonged lock-in of state security forces, and I think this would also be a big one. But on the flip side of it, and I want to bring in Jyotsna Tirunagari for it, spokesperson TDP. Your party in Parliament have vehemently supported your ally who's put forth the bill of one nation, one election, ma'am. The question is, one would reckon it's a little strange coming in from a regional party, because ultimately many would suggest this will threaten the basic structure on which resides federalism.
Good evening, one and all. See, I've been listening to all these discussions since almost 2 to 3 days continuously. We have in several channels, but I am surely worried and surprised actually. What do they actually mean by federalism? What is federalism in true sense? We are talking about the state benefits. We are talking about the national benefits. We are trying to align the state benefits and the rights, and both benefits and rights of the state along with the national rights and national benefits. Simple. That's what is federalism for us, first thing. Second thing is, this is not a new thing. No, I don't know why they have a problem with it now. Whenever we get something, we get the women reservation bill, they have a problem with it. We get any other bill, they have a problem with it. We have EVMs online, they have a problem with it. When they pitched in for EVM, they didn't have any problem. When their own party pitched in for one nation, one election, they didn't have any problem. But just because NDA is getting it now, just because he is getting it now, they have a problem with it. Simple. My question.
But Ms. Tirunagari, and I'll come back. I understand the kind of argument that you're making, something which Sanju Verma has echoed. But let me circle back to the question that I asked you on federalism, and let me quote Mr. Owaisi, who today on the floor of the House said that the bill indirectly introduces a presidential style of democracy, alluding to the sheer fact that you have somebody like a Modi and he's a larger-than-life figure. Therefore, there lies an unnatural advantage in this. The bill is based on maximizing political gain and convenience and will finish off regional parties. This has been the contention of the likes of Mr. Owaisi and other regional counterparts like who's sitting on this very show, the spokesperson of the DMK.
Absolutely wrong. I'll tell you why. Because, see, they can quote whatever they want to on the House also, but still, again, I'll have to tell you the fact. The point here is, I think if I'm not wrong, I'll have to, if somebody on the show, on the panel can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not wrong, Karunanidhi ji also pitched in for one nation, one election policy. He has pitched in for that. So now, here, what is the reason for Owaisi ji or somebody else, for any other party, to not go for it? My question is, we are not talking about it now. We have been talking about it.
Okay.
Sir, one second.
No, ma'am. Your DMK counterpart is saying, because you spoke about his leader, he's saying it's not true. He never pitched for one nation, one poll.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you the proof for that also. I'll tell you why. In the year, one second, because it is very clearly
I'm going to circle back to the both of you, the two regional players. I'll come right back. Let me bring in the Congress spokesperson back into this conversation, and I'll go to Sanju Verma after that. Mr. Nayak, the constant refrain is it's going to dilute federalism, it's going to finish regionalism, and it will give an advantage to the BJP, especially because you have a larger-than-life cult figure like Prime Minister Modi. But electoral history stands otherwise, and I'll give you a very recent example. There have been multiple. Look at what happened in Maharashtra. While the Vidhan Sabha elections took place in Nanded, you had the Mahayuti which swept those elections. But the Lok Sabha ticket on the same day in Nanded, it was the Mahavikas Agadi which won. So, contrary to what many suggest is fear-mongering, it seems, one maybe needs to give a little more credit to the voters. It's happened in so many states before. Odisha, for example.
The kind of electioneering that we are seeing these days is very clear that it is centered around the personality, and it is to aggrandizement of the personality, and whatever that agenda is set at the national level is carried forward in a major way. So if you continue to have this kind of a thing when the state elections are also held, then in all likelihood, the state aspirations would be subsumed under the national issues which are to be discussed. Of course, if we can start off with one election with this, one nation, one election kind of thing. But is it really workable? Say, there are reasons why the state governments or the central government need not finish the 5-year term. There can be a fall of government. What is the solution that we have proposed in this kind of a bill? The solution itself is worse than the problem. We cannot have a tenure of a state government elected body which is lesser than 5 years. All these things require constitutional amendment, which itself goes against the fundamental structure of the constitution, which says that state is an independent. It's not in terms of in comparison with the US, it is not kind of a state, but still India is also a union of states. States have a definite role to play. You cannot ride roughshod over the states. A union government or the parliament is not supreme or doesn't have a control over the state level elected bodies. So they also are independent. That needs to be recognized. That point has to be recognized. And also, even if one were to put in all good faith, personally, I feel this is a kind of bogey with the BJP tries to rake up on and off. But even if one were to give kind of a point to them and let us start working this, but what is the solution to various problems which are going to arise? I feel the solutions will be worse than the problem that is being proposed. About the cost, efficiency, and other things, sir, there is we should not discuss that at all. There is no cost that we can put to democracy. What are we talking about? Few hundred crores. Let us not even go at that point. If elections are held often, it is an opportunity for the electorate to come and exercise and show the politicians their place. It is a method of accountability which is exercised by the common man of this country. This is a valuable right of the common man. This cannot be done away. We cannot ask him to come once and do elections once and for all.
There is also an insinuation, especially coming in from the opposition, Sanju Verma, that seems to suggest that this is a way of pushing down on what the government wants, an authoritarian way. Why I say it is, usually committees are appointed to study a proposal and then give the feasibility of it, the pros and cons. In this case, Sanju Verma, it was different. The Ramnath Kovind committee was given a very limited mandate and tasked only with suggesting measures to implement simultaneous elections, not really to study the pros and cons or whether it's even feasible.
Preeti, first and foremost, let me give this disclaimer. Forget about me being the national spokesperson of BJP. As a bona fide Indian citizen, I'm sick and tired of the charade of the Congress party and the opposition. Time and again, Samvidhan khatre mein hai, Loktantra khatre mein hai, democracy khatre mein hai. Democracy is alive and kicking. Samvidhan khatre mein nahi hai. But I will come straight to the point. The famous S.R. Bommai versus the Union of India case in 1994, but more importantly, the Sarkaria Commission, which was set up in 1983 to study center-state relations. Do you know what the Sarkaria Commission did in 1988? It studied center-state relations for 5 long years, submitted 247 recommendations via a 1600-page report, where it actually spoke in glowing terms about the need for one nation, one election. If you read the S.R. Bommai versus Union of India case also, there is an endorsement for the one nation, one election proposal because it leads to optimum resource allocation. It reduces the tax burden on the ordinary taxpayer by streamlining governance. You don't need to have the model code of conduct in place every now and then. You don't need to revise electoral rolls every now and then. You don't need to redeploy police and paramilitary personnel every now and then. But most importantly, it is this. And very quickly, I did not want to make this personal. I will still not make it personal. The DMK spokesperson spoke about Prime Minister Modi showcasing his face on advertisements and billboards. Your audience, Preeti, needs to know that today Tamil Nadu's GSDP is 27 lakh crore and the debt is 11 lakh crore. 41% of the GSDP goes into servicing of debt burden. This is the same MK Stalin government, be it Cyclone Michong or Cyclone Fengal. The Modi government gave 2,000 crores, kabhi 3,000 crore. They spent 200 crores, they spent 300 crores. और फिर यहाँ टीवी डिबेट पर बैठकर विक्टिम कार्ड खेलते हैं ये लोग. विक्टिम कार्ड खेलना बंद करो. and first tell me, why do you keep going to the RBI with a begging bowl? Oh, Tamil Nadu is going bankrupt, sir. हमें please और पैसा दीजिए. यहाँ बैठकर भाषण मत दो.
You're not going anywhere.
I'll come to you, sir. Allow her to finish. Allow her to finish. All right.
Senthil Balaji, your leader is out on bail within 24 hours of getting bail.
Ma'am, 10 seconds, make your point.
You made him a minister, and the Supreme Court came down heavily on M.K. Stalin saying, we gave bail to this guy, we have not declared him innocent. What was the need to be in such a rush to make him minister? और आप लोग यहाँ बैठकर political morality पर ज्ञान देते हो, थोड़ी शर्म आती है या नहीं? Political probity देते हो, शर्म आती है या नहीं?
Okay, let me cut across to Salem Dharanidharan, and he can, answer to the questions that have been posed by Sanju Verma. But, with what we were talking about, sir, there's a fair amount of good as well, and possibly the opposition needs to look at it holistically. One can understand that, yes, if you feel that there should have been a larger consensus that should have been sought, especially from political parties like yours, and ultimately, the government has made it very clear that the committee has recommended this will enhance governance, this will minimize policy paralysis, this will optimize resources. So somewhere down the line, maybe we should move towards and have an open mind of having a one nation, one election.
You see, firstly and foremost, I like to reply to Sanjay Verma. It's very ironical that the national spokesperson of BJP cannot goddamn divide. As per RBI, Tamil Nadu's debt to GSDP is 27%, but remember, it was 29% when AIDMK left. We reduced it by 2%. When DMK debited office in 2011, DMK debited office in 2011, it was 18%.
Can we just get the DMK spokesperson? Yeah, make your point.
Right? It was a AIDMK alliance in cahoots with BJP who looted. That is why debt to GSDP increased from 18% to 28%, which our finance minister from PTR to Tangam Tenasu reduced it by about 2%. Point number one. If Tamil Nadu gives 1 rupee, we only get 25 paisa back. Remaining 75 paisa goes to BJP ruled states such as Gujarat and Bihar and Madhya Pradesh. They can't govern well. That is why we have to send the money. Now she's coming and telling Tamil Nadu is begging. It's a grave insult to people of Tamil Nadu. And again, it's going away from the subject. I'll tell you this. In Tamil, there's a saying for one nation, one election. Korangin Kayil Kanita Pumal. You know what it translates to? Flower garlands given to hands of a monkey. That is how this country is run. Constitution is given to a monkey and it's been torn and thrown into pieces. There is no single benefit of one nation, one election. I am not saying this as a DMK spokesperson, as a student of political science. Right? There is not single. And people tell me, it happened in 1947. I'll tell you, when India got independence,
No, sir, it didn't just happen in it didn't happen in 1947. From 1952 through 67, the subsequent elections that were held, it happened there.
One point.
I'll come to you, ma'am. Let him finish. I'll come to you, Ms. Tirunagri. Yes, sir, 10 seconds, make your point.
See, when India got independence, elections happened in 1952 because all the states as well as the country was new because we're getting independence. So the elections will have to be conducted at once. You can't have national elections in 52 and 53 for Tamil Nadu, 50 for Andhra Pradesh, right? It has to happen at once.
But the real reason, sir, the reason why elections started happening then through the course... No, 1 second. Why we moved away from one nation, one election wasn't because we were a nation state, because then the era of coalition politics and governments falling started and it was difficult. Therefore, the pattern set in. All right.
You're not letting me complete.
Sir, please complete. 10 seconds. 10 seconds, sir, complete.
The simultaneous election was not by design, it was by chance because country got independence. That's the point one. And I will ask only one question to the viewers and as well as to other panelists. What happens if a state government is dissolved for some reason or the other after 3.5 years or nearly 4 years? What will happen?
Because for 1.5 years you will have the next government and then the elections will take place as per the bill. As per the bill. I'm just quoting what the bill says. All right, okay. I want to go to Jyotsna Tirunagri. Sir, sir, please come down. Everyone. Sir, you've had enough time. There's a panel. Allow the panel. I want to go to Jyotsna Tirunagri. Jyotsna Tirunagri, the contention is also very clear, which comes from the opposition, that there is an attempt of uniformity, which this government wants, primarily the BJP. They want one nation, one election, they want one language, ultimately they'll want one leader or one party, even to the extent that the opposition is going on to. The question is, as a regional party, and you are a regional party, are you not threatened?
Absolutely not. I'll tell you why, because that's their perception. I'll give you a small example. In Nenjuku Niti, that is the autobiography of Karunanidhi ji. in 1971, DMK led by Karunanidhi ji very clearly pitched in for simultaneous poll. They very clearly pitched in, and they were also a regional party. Even today we are saying, unconditionally we are supporting this because we know the benefits of it. And again, it's not, see, we are open for discussions again. Didn't we just say that we are open for discussions? We said, okay, once it comes onto the floor of the House, if you have any problem, we'll even send it to the JPC. That's what we said. But they just simply, as I said earlier, Preeti, they just want to oppose it because NDA is getting it. Simple.
All right. Final comments, 20 seconds each. Can I please bring in Mr. Nayak back, the Congress spokesperson, sir? 20 seconds closing comments. One nation, one election.
It is a typical of BJP to bring up bogies like this and divert the attention of the country and the people from major issues which are haunting the economy of this country, unemployment, price rise, and things like that. The idea that now we can save just money by conducting elections together is a sham, because democracy and development go hand in hand. They are not mutually exclusive. Deepening democracy means development.
All right. Sanju Verma, 20 seconds. Sir, I need to cut you short. I'm running out of time. Sanju Verma, 20 seconds.
Preeti, I think after the 102nd constitutional amendment, which was about giving, the National Commission for Backward Classes constitutional status, and after the 106th amendment, which was about 1/3 reservation for women in Lok Sabha, I think the third most historic decision is the 129th amendment pertaining to one nation, one election. And I always say, be it one nation, one tax via GST, one nation, one ration card, one nation, one constitution by abrogating Article 370, or one nation, one subscription. Modi hai to mumkin hai.
Okay. All right. Okay. May I please get the DMK spokesperson? Sir, 20 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think firstly and foremost, one nation, one election and horrendous idea is absolutely not feasible. It is a BJP's idea to rule states through backdoor, because dissolve the state governments 14 months before end of the term. You can't have an election because it's not possible, and then have presidential rule happen. We will not let it happen because 18 articles have to be amended, which is not possible. So I don't think it's going to happen. It's a very bad idea for the country. Nowhere, even Commonwealth countries, right, which follow Westminster system, do not have one nation, one election. Smaller countries, very small countries, even like New Zealand, they don't have one nation, one election for their states.
May I please get the TDP spokesperson? Ma'am, 20 seconds and I'm moving on.
Preeti, I'm going to wrap it very, very fast. It's the need of the hour. That's the reason we have got it into the House. And definitely, we are looking forward for more debates on this and meaningful discussions on this, and we are looking for a logical solution to this. Very clear.
You're happy that it goes to the JPC?
See, definitely, there's nothing wrong in it. We only said no. Our law minister said, "Arey yaar, hum log JPC ke samne rakhenge. Agar aapko kuch etraz hai to laake bol do."
All right. So with that, I'm going to end this debate. I'm going to end this debate on that. There's so much noise, but viewers, for a minute, just think about it. Were we able to even have 2 elections in one go, Maharashtra and Haryana? There's also Delhi. 3 of them could have happened together, but did they happen? Not quite. Are we in a position? Well, we don't know. Let's see. Where politics is concerned on it, it's definitely peaking.